The field of 68 has been set in Kansas basketball as a number 4 seed in the 2024 NCAA Tournament. The Jayhawks head out to Salt Lake City later this week to begin their NCAA Tournament with the hopes of going on another deep run as they get healthier with Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson, both on track to be available to play. Will they be 100%? Hard to expect that, but we'll see when KU takes the floor on Thursday night. Now, for the opening round game for KU, if you're looking at the components of a team that maybe KU would have wanted to play against, I think three-point shooting is going to be the first thing that every Kansas fan goes to look at when this bracket was announced. And when you pull up who KU plays, Samford, they are an elite three-point shooting team. It's probably one of the worst matchups KU could have in that specific regard for this first round game. I'll pull up the stats here for you so you can see it. It's pretty crazy when you look at it. So overall, right, Samford as a team, stylistically, if we pull up these KenPom numbers for you, they play really fast. You look at the average tempo, right, 14th in the country in terms of pace of play. They really try and get up and down the floor. And that shows itself in the way that Samford uses its rotations. Samford's going to play 11 guys, and they don't have anybody on their team averaging more than 26 minutes per game. Isn't that a crazy thought, considering what Kansas has done this year with guys like Kevin McCullough and DeJuan Harris and Hunter Dickinson all playing, 32 plus minutes per game. Nobody on Samford plays more than 26 minutes per game. And that's why Samford ranks so highly in bench production, right? They rotate, they play at a really fast pace, and they get up a ton of three-point shots. You look at the actual shots that they take, right? And overall, right? So 40% of what Samford's shots are going to be three-pointers. That's really high. As you can see, it's 89th in the country. But what they're really good at is just being efficient with those looks. 39% from three this season. That's an insane percentage. Now, if you think about it, Samford had two tough games early in the year against Purdue and VCU. They lost both of those games, but then they were playing about like competition for the rest of the season. So the question will be, hey, how can that shooting translate? Now, you look at what Samford does defensively, and they really do want to turn up the pace as well. They're a team that wants to force turnovers, put pressure on the opposition. The overall defensive numbers for them, right? You look at the turnover rate forced, 21.8%. You can compare that to teams like Iowa State, like Houston, right? That's the level that we're talking here about forcing turnovers. And maybe even a team like UCF that KU played early in Big 12 play, right? They wanted to force turnovers and get teams sped up. So for KU, look, it's going to be a double-edged sword here because on the one hand, Samford's going to want to push the pace. And KU as a team does not have a ton of depth, right? We've seen that this year. And unless someone like Nick Timberlake turns into a Malik Newman and has that type of run and that type of spark, it's going to be really hard to see those guys playing 15 to 20 minutes in these games. And as a result, you're looking at kind of the core four for KU, or really the core five, right? Johnny Furphy being in there as well. Like those guys are going to have to play a lot of minutes. And is this the type of game and up and down style that will help them? Probably not. But on the other hand, you're looking at this being maybe more of a transitional game, and that could help KU because what have we seen over the last 7 games or so? KU has struggled to shoot the three-point ball. They've shot under 25% from three over the last 7 games. And what happens when you're playing an open style? You get more shots at the rim, and that's where Kansas has been so efficient. And so you think about some of the guys on KU's team, right? DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Johnny Furphy, Kevin McCullough when his knee is feeling better. These are guys that can play in transition, and maybe that's an area where KU is able to carve out an advantage, where they are better athletically than Stanford. They have more talented players, if you will. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. And then I think secondary, right, it's going to come down to the health of someone like Hunter Dickinson. And is this game going to be an exact match for him? Because you look at what Samford does. Their 5-man is really, really good at shooting. He's not going to shoot a bunch of threes, but when he steps out beyond the three-point arc, he can make those shots. And so for KU, it's a question of, hey, Hunter Dickinson, not even 2 weeks removed from dislocating his shoulder, how effective will he be inside? Because that's where his advantage will be in this tournament. And then how much is he able to get on the perimeter and guard? Because we've seen mobile big men, right? Think back to that Marquette game. You can think back other times this year where mobile big men who can space the floor have given KU some issues. So overall, look, Samford's a 13 seed. KU opens up as about an 8.5 point favorite. It is the shortest favorite of any of the 4-13 matchups, but this is a game that Kansas should be able to win. Now, if we're going to carve out a path to victory for KU, what is that going to look like? Well, I think it's going to start with guys like Juwan Harris, Johnny Furphy, and KJ Adams doing a really good job of being efficient around the rim. Because we've seen for KU in some of the games where things haven't gone KU's way, when they get sped up, and then all of a sudden guys are rushing shots around the rim and they're just clanging off the rim or off the backboard and not really being efficient in those opportunities. So I think those types of guys are going to have to be really important. And then obviously the health of Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson is going to be paramount. McCullough's not looked like the same player over the last 6 weeks that he did in the first half of the season. And that's because of the bone bruise on his knee. So how healthy is this break that he's had? How is that going to help him? And is he going to be efficient and effective? Because as we've seen, when Kevin McCullough is really effective, think about Houston, you think about some of those big games early in the season against UConn, um, KU goes to a different level. And they need him to play like that in this game and in this first weekend. And so for Hunter Dickinson, then, like I mentioned, look, it's going to come down to what his mobility is like in his shoulders. How much is he able to use those jump hook shots, the little spin moves that he has around the rim? Like, how much can he use those moves if his shoulder is still bugging him? So that remains to be seen. Obviously, we'll get to that second round matchup, which could feature either a really overall solid team against Gonzaga or another high flying offense like McNeese. But KU, first and foremost, has to get by this first round game. It's going to be a late one in Salt Lake City. It's going to be late for folks watching in the Central Time Zone, 8:55 p.m. on Thursday night on TBS. Chances are high it's going to start a little bit later than that, but it should be a great first weekend of the NCAA tournament. As always, we got you covered at Fog.net with all sorts of Kansas coverage. Got NCAA tournament. The transfer portal opened today. It's total mayhem in there. It's crazy. And then obviously spring football starts for KU on Tuesday. So make sure you're checking out Fog.net for all sorts of Kansas coverage. And we're back with another video later this week.